The Houston Texans have climbed back into a playoff spot following last night's 2010 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. Meantime, 3 Texas-based teams are headed to the college football playoffs, but UT is not among them. Let's talk a little football now with Houston Press writer and Bleav in Astros podcast co-host Jeff Balke. Hi, Jeff.
Good morning, Craig.
Let's start with the Texans. They made Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes look more than, or I should say less than, ordinary. Picking him off 3 times, sacking him twice. He didn't register a single touchdown reception. Is this Texans defense getting even better week to week?
They are really, they honestly, by the end of the season, they could be ranking with some of the best defenses of all time. I mean, it's a remarkable group. They're, somebody described them the other day as saying that they're fast, but they're violent, and not in a negative connotation, but they hit hard, they hit clean. The thing that was really interesting to me watching the game last night was how there were times where they kind of befuddled Patrick Mahomes. That's something you never see happen. They were in the secondary. They have such a good secondary that there were moments when you thought he was going to come up with a move. Now, granted, they had 6 drops in the game, which certainly didn't help them. But there were moments in the game where you thought this defense is not just outplaying; it's out scheming the Chiefs and Andy Reid, and that's a remarkable thing to say. Yeah.
The offense, meanwhile, which struggled mightily in the first few weeks, seems to have settled in. I mean, a 20-point showing won't light the world on fire, but C.J. Stroud has been making good decisions, converting necessary third downs, avoiding any big mistakes, which has kind of been his MO through his career. How much credit do you give to Stroud, and how much to the offensive line in front of him that these last several games seems to have finally settled in?
Well, the offensive line did struggle quite a bit yesterday. I mean, the run game was mediocre. He was pressured a lot. This year, the offensive line, the biggest struggle they've had is with the blitz. When teams come after them with a bunch, it's almost, somebody, I think Lance Zierlein mentioned on Twitter last night, said something about how it just seems like the Texans don't have a play for a blitz. They don't know what to do. But I think C.J. Stroud, after coming out of concussion protocol, he was certainly a little rusty last week. He made some really impressive throws. But the biggest thing, and you brought it up, he did not make mistakes. Like, he did not throw – like last week we saw he threw a bad interception. He threw another one that should have been an interception. This week we didn't really see that. When he was in trouble, he threw the ball at somebody's feet. He threw it away. He did not throw – I mean, he made sure he airmailed a few passes that probably could have been thrown more accurately. But overall, he played it safe, and he helped the team to win the game, and that's the main thing you need to do.
The Texans are remarkably just a game behind the division-leading Jaguars in the AFC West, and I think the most remarkable part of that is the phrase division-leading Jaguars. But there are only 4 games left. I take it the more likely result is that the Texans end up with a wild card spot, but does it matter?
I don't know. At this point, I'm not sure. It is reasonable to assume with the games that they have remaining that the Texans could win out. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, they have really one what we would call difficult game on the schedule, and that's at San Diego against a very good Charger team. Otherwise, they're playing Arizona. They play the Colts again, who lost their quarterback for the season yesterday. This is not a murderer's row to end the season, so there's good reason to believe that the Texans could win out or certainly go 3-1.
And theoretically, the Jags could go 2-2 because they're only facing 2 bad teams, and they're facing, they face the Colts too.
Yeah, but the Colts are awful. Yeah, the truth is it might have been tougher for them because 2 of their final 4 games were against the Colts, and you think, okay, well, they're going to battle it out. Well, not now. Not without their quarter. Now with Daniel Jones going down with an Achilles. It's just, I think it's going to be, I'm not sure the Texans are going to win the division, but it does feel very much like they're going to be able to make a playoff spot at this point.
To college football now, the playoff teams have been selected. The final 12 include 3 from Texas, the 12-1 Texas Tech Red Raiders, who finished ranked 4th overall. 11-1 Texas A&M finishes 7th. 10-2 SMU is ranked 10th. The 9-3 Texas Longhorns finished just out of the top 12. They will be bowl-bound. They'll play Michigan at the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, New Year's Eve in Orlando. They are not in the playoffs, so is that the right call?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Texas had a huge win against A&M, but they struggled in other ways. Look, there were teams that were ahead of Texas that arguably should have been in, particularly over Alabama. I mean, BYU certainly had an argument. Vanderbilt had an argument. Most certainly Notre Dame had an argument. Of course, they were so mad yesterday that they said, we're not even going to play in a bowl game, which, by the way, who turns down the Pop-Tart Bowl? Like, I would play in that. But the thing is
they should really only play it for like 2 or 3 minutes.
And then just eat the Pop-Tart.
And then just jump up and leave.
Just eat the Pop-Tart. That's the main thing. I do think, though, that Texas was on the outside looking in, rightfully so. They just struggled too much in too many situations this year. Had good wins at the end of the season, but not enough to really justify them getting the postseason. I mean, obviously the biggest loser was Notre Dame, and the biggest question mark is how does Alabama get in again? And there's listen, until we have like what they have in college basketball, which is probably never going to happen, it's going to be impossible to make these decisions. They're going to get it wrong every time.
Like the Longhorns, the UH Cougars finished their season 9-3. They'll play LSU in the Kinder's Texas Bowl right here in Houston, December 27th. Cougs wound up 21st overall in the rankings. UH was undefeated on the road, but only 3-3 at home. Why do some teams have such drastic home road splits like that?
I don't know what the situation is with the Cougs at home. It might be just some of it might be who they were playing, might be the time of year. There's a variety of things. I'm not sure that it's necessarily TDCU Stadium that was the real problem. I will say this. That is a very good Texas Bowl matchup. LSU and Houston, first of all, it should be a good matchup of the two teams, number one. But more importantly, there are probably as many LSU fans in Houston as there are any other sports team in Houston. So when you combine that, it should be a full stadium, and that'll be a raucous environment for a bowl game here in Houston. And I think it'll get some national eyeballs as well. That's going to be a fun matchup.
Jeff Balke writes for the Houston Press. He co-hosts the Bleav in Astros podcast. Jeff, thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig.